Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort. Today, I have with me a couple of guests, and we're going to do something a little bit different on the podcast for the next couple of days. I talked to some great ladies, Kim Bradley and Erica Glenn from Max Results, and I invited them to be on the podcast. And as we were talking, we thought, well, you know what? Let's try a workshop style podcast episode and see how it goes. And so I am super excited that we're going to do it like workshop style today. So that being said, you will be able to listen to it here on whatever platform you're listening on, but you will also be able to see a video on YouTube or in my Empowered Educator group, which I have the link in the show notes for you. So you won't have any trouble finding it, but I'm really super excited. We're going to break it into 2 days. They're going to do part 1 today and then part 2 tomorrow. And so I'm super excited. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're excited to be here. I'm
Yeah.
Kimberly Bradley with Max Results, as was said, and I have been in education for almost 30 years, about 28, and I left traditional education a couple years ago. We started this business together, Eric and I. I think we are in the middle of the second year. I had some other group folks to with me at first, but I think I found my niche with my bestie Erica, and I'm married for 30 plus years, have 2 sons and
Wow.
7 grandkids. Yeah,
Wow.
and I am
7.
really
Woo.
excited. Yeah, really excited to talk to you guys today and tomorrow, and love to talk everything education and school leadership.
Me too. Me too. Well, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to
Thank
have
you.
you on. And 7 grandkids, that's
Yes.
amazing. I love it. I have 2. They're awesome. I'm waiting on
Yes.
I'm waiting on some more. I'm getting some baby fever.
Okay.
Thank goodness
I
my
think we're
brother.
done.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah.
I've got 2 boys that haven't even started yet. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I've got some coming in the future. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
So
that's cool. Yeah, they're great. Great
yes,
kids.
absolutely. Erica, tell us about yourself.
Okay, my name is Erica Glenn. I am also an educator. I was a teacher for about 15 years or so. And then we went to admin, and I spent a long time as an assistant principal as I was a chicken. And then we moved on to being a principal. My total is 31 years. I
Wow.
retired last year in May. And my family structure, I have a husband and I have 2 children. My son is 21, no grandchildren yet, thank the Lord, yet, not yet. And my daughter is 14 and she still lives here with us at home. And it is a pleasure to be here. We're excited about talking to new school leaders about the question as to what are we supposed to be doing during the summer. If you're a new principal, a lot of times people say, well, what are we supposed to be doing? So that's what we wanted to talk about. We want to talk about that. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about is going to be the warts of education. So before we say that, we want to say that we love our jobs. Like there's so much
Mhm.
joy in being a principal. But
No, it is.
you can see the teachers grow, the students grow, you get to
Mhm.
know families, there's joy there. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of the what I said, the warts, and some things to look out for if you're brand new.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And Erica is also one of the authors in the upcoming book that our anthology, which is Milestones of Women in Education. We are on book 2, which is Inspire, and I'm super excited to be collaborating with you on that project as well.
Me
So,
too.
all right.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I'm super excited, definitely. All right, ladies, I'm gonna go on mute. I'm gonna let you guys take the floor. You have share option or sharing rights right now, so you should be able to share the workbook. The workbook will be in the show notes, so you will have a link to that. They've created this beautiful workbook. It is absolutely gorgeous. So good job on that, ladies. And it is going to be there so you can actually click on the link and you can follow right along. as they are
Yes.
talking. So I'm going to give the floor to you ladies, and here we go.
Okay. So our overview, we're going to start is we're going to talk about these 7 correlates from Larry Lazat. And when we started school, when we were principals, you know how you've been in school and you did all the what we call book learning. You've been in class, you got all the theory
Research.
the research, and then you get to the chair. I remember my moment in my chair. I got my new principal chair, and you kind of freeze, like what am I supposed to start with? Like, where should I start? So Kim and I worked together in a couple of schools. And when we decided to use these 7 correlates. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so that you can see all 7 of them. They're starting here with the strong instructional leadership. I won't name them all right now, but we'll talk about a few of them. But we started with these 7 correlates because there are research, like Kim said, and they will help you get to the areas in school that you need to get to so that you're not leaving anything in the cracks. They're kind of interdependent. Like, you're not just going to focus on one. You're going to try to focus on all of them. Depending on your school, it could be more on one thing than the other, your climate, however it's going. But this is the cheat sheet. This is a cheat code for you to use to get started, so you're not sitting in the chair going, oh my gosh, where do I start? This is a good place to start.
Like Erica said, we worked together. This grew out of us working together at a school that had been in transition, and that school needed a lot of support. The district decided to take all of the 5th and 6th grade students and put them in one building together, and principals in the other buildings, other elementary buildings, got to choose which teachers to now become 5th and 6th grade teachers. You can imagine what we walked into. And what we realized is that what we learned earlier in our pre-service classes could be applied here and support us in improving schools. So all of this research done around how to improve a school, why not utilize those and make certain that we're, like Erica said, not leaving any area out. We wanted to make certain that we were focused on all 7 of these correlates.
Mm-hmm. The other reason we kind of chose this is because we've had some friends who've walked before us and who graduated before us in our principal leadership program, and there's kind of like a disconnect for them. So the things that you learn in school, sometimes, like I said, is book learning, and when you get in the seat, is so much going on. Like that school itself, we had to make schedules and put people in pods to do all these things, and you might forget about this theory that you learned or the things that you're learning in school. So we just want to encourage people to don't throw your theory out of the window. It really can help you. It can give you a starting point, and it's evidence based, so you know it's going to work. You just got to get your feet wet and get it working.
Absolutely. And we saw improvements in our outcomes for students over like a couple of years. It didn't take long of us doing this to see improvements in academics for our students.
So maybe it's because people are on the podcast. I know we're doing both sides, but maybe we should name them real quick, and then we're going to talk about a couple of them. I'll name them. Then Kim you could start talking about the one that you wanted to talk about first. I know I wanted to do strong instructional leadership. I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The strong instructional leadership, clear and focused mission is one. Safe and orderly environment, climate of high expectations, frequent monitoring of student progress, opportunity to learn, and time on task. And then finally, home and school relations. And we wanted to share these in stories because we do know it's a podcast, and we would like to do the PD, but we're going to do kind of a hybrid. So the story that we're going to tell is a true story. It's about a principal at a school, and we worked with her for a little bit. She was like we said, we work with people who have gone before us, and her focus was on that safe and orderly environment. I know I said I was going to do strong leadership, but I'm gonna go backwards. So she focused on strong and orderly environment. She had a handbook, and the handbook had tabs in it, and the tabs were under each infraction that students could make, and she had highlighted, and we saw it. We were like, oh, okay. She's a disciplinarian. That was her focus. But the instructional leadership, I think she believed that if I have a safe and orderly environment, no one's doing anything to disrupt the environment, that the instruction will take care of itself. And that was not the case. Like, we focused more on discipline. Like, if you're looking for discipline and that is your focus, that's what you're going to find, and that's what you're going to spend your time doing. So there was no time for the instructional leadership in that team, because we spent all of our time getting the environment orderly and safe, which is good, but you have to have a balance. So
I have a question too. So since she was focused on discipline, I'm sure her staff was focused on discipline. So she probably didn't have a lot of time to do anything else, because they were probably like, okay, her focus is on discipline, so I'm going to write up every kid for everything then.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
she probably wasn't getting a whole lot else finished during the day or anything.
Exactly. That what you inspect, that's what you're gonna find. You know what you're looking for. So yes, we spent a lot of time looking at what the students were doing. And like I said, you have to have a balance. You can't learn, the students can't learn if the climate in the classroom is in disarray and people are just running amok. That is true. That thought that she had, that was true. But you have to have instruction too. Like, the teachers need help. They need resources. You need to get into classrooms and see what is going on a daily basis. Like, every day you should be popping in somebody's class. It doesn't have to be written down, just popping in and seeing what's going on. Then you can know, and you can start seeing what the school needs and where your strengths are and where your weak points are.
We were talking about that particular school leader, but we also had a conversation recently with another school leader who also was reflecting on her focus on discipline and safe and orderly environment and things that were kind of like adjacent to instruction. And she was kind of questioning whether or not, because she had been in that school for some time, and the movements in academics hadn't really made the strides that she wanted. And she was kind of questioning whether or not she was the right person for that building. She was kind of down on herself a little bit. But it was because she was realizing that maybe my focus was not as clear as I needed it to be or in the right direction. So, yes, her environment was, I guess you could call it safe, but then that next step of having students learning to the best of their ability to the point that you want them to hadn't quite happened for her. And she was questioning her focus on which one of these correlates, whether or not we were talking about correlates or not at the time, that's what she was questioning. And so what we realized when Erica and I became the school leaders was that we understood that our primary focus was so that our students learn to the best of their ability. And we had high expectations, which is also one of the correlates for our children. And we knew that in order to get there, we do have to have a safe environment, but we have to support our teachers in the instruction. And we felt confident that we were able to do that. We were confident in our ability to support them. And where we weren't able to personally support them, like with PD, then we will find them those resources to make certain that our teachers had what they needed, like Erica said before, because if they don't, our children are not going to grow. We know that we have to support those teachers in the classroom. They're asking for it often.
Okay. You touched on high expectations in the classroom. And I guess I want to touch on that too. I know when I would walk through classes on our rubric, we have to do walkthroughs or evals. Again, another tip for new principals. Sometimes it's like, well, I have an idea of what high expectations are myself. Like I know what I think it is, but sometimes when you're looking into the classroom, it might seem like, how do I measure that? Like, what am I supposed
Yes.
to be looking for? So again, we talk about what you learned in a book. It says, you're going to have a climate of high expectations. But what does that really mean? So again, here's another story. I had a teacher that I used to know in one of the various schools that I taught in, and she would ask the students questions, but then she would answer the questions and ask them to echo it back, like say back what I said. And so that to me is an example of what you might have to encounter with the high expectations. Like, why is she doing that? Why are you not letting the students answer? So we had a conversation about lots of things about letting this. We want the students to think, like to be thinkers, and to be give them the space to make a mistake. If they give the wrong answer, that's okay. That's how they're gonna learn. So sometimes, for me, when I was in school and I was looking at this list, I thought it was more so nuts and bolts. Like we're gonna talk about among the teachers, we're gonna talk about theory again, like how do you strategies that you use in the classroom. I didn't realize that you're going to have to talk about mindsets, like to get to the high expectations. Sometimes you have to get to people's mindsets, like what are you thinking, like that principal again. What is her mindset? Why is she thinking that all I have to do is this discipline, stay on this line and not really worry about the instruction? What's motivating her for that? What's her thought process?
And we
And what
have different
are,
mental models of what
yeah,
things look like. So, what that teacher thought was high expectations, to us, that was bizarre that someone would think that those were high expectations, but those had never, maybe she had never come from an environment where she really had seen or had someone model what high expectation or a rigorous classroom learning looked like and student engagement. And so
right,
her mental model was different. What it didn't mean that she didn't think she wasn't teaching with high expectations. She
right,
just had a different mental model. So somewhere along the line, you need to sit down with your teachers and you need to talk about, okay, what do high expectations look like? Let's define
Yes.
that right now.
right. And
Yes.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes those conversations can be painful because
Hmm.
I'm holding on to this idea and I'm not even aware, like you said, I'm not even aware of that. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get defensive sometimes. Go ahead, Kim. You were gonna say something.
What I found is that as the school leader, you set the tone too for the building, just like teachers set the tone in their classrooms. And one of the things that was important to me as a school leader around high expectations was if a child came to the office, before I dealt with the infraction, whatever it was, we talked about their grades. I looked up on Skyward, what's happening in the classroom, and I always connected whatever behaviors to the reason that they're here. Why are you here? Was my I always asked everybody, why are you here? Yeah, you're here to get an education, and nothing else should be a focus of yours. Yeah, you have fun at school, and you're gonna make friends. And fifth and sixth graders, there's some social aspect to that too. However, your primary focus is to get a good education here. And then even in our correspondence with the teachers, in our daily announcements, everything set the tone for we have high expectations for our students here. We expect them to be learning clock bell to bell for the most part, and that may mean that it could look different. It doesn't have to be like book learning the whole time. It may be that I'm learning how to get along with folks. I'm learning how to understand my emotions. The learning may look a little bit different, but we expect our students to be working on learning while they're in school, and like that's their focus. And I think that that's another thing for new school leaders to realize is that what you put out is what the building will become. Like just like those class, you can go into the classrooms where if the teacher has set certain climate requirements or understandings, you're going to see that in the climate of that classroom. Same thing happens. You can get a feel for the climate of the building. And a lot of times it's either set by the principal or it's set by others, and it may not be what they want necessarily. And so a lot of times when you're new to a building, you have to kind of observe first, but also work on the climate and shape it to what you want it to become.
True. I think the other one we wanted to talk about for today is the frequent monitoring of student progress. And again, that goes back to your focus, like that the principle we were talking about at the beginning. What you're looking at is what you're going to get. That's what you're going to focus on. That's what you're going to spend all your time on. So just to be aware that you're constantly monitoring the student progress. And it's not just academics. It could be your referrals that are coming in, or if the students are having, sometimes in that school that we were talking about, we brought all the children from different areas. So you had to work on some social aspects that had to be looked at. So just keeping an eye on when you're doing your walkthroughs, not just always looking at the academics, like what's the numbers, but what's the story behind the numbers? What's the reason why this is happening? That's embedded inside of your monitoring of student progress.
Yeah. I think we also I know we talked about strong instructional leadership, Erica, but I wanted to, before we wrap up, talk a little bit too about how the strong instructional leadership has the focus on the students, but through the lens of the teachers. And that sometimes as a new school leader, you might not realize that you often are the professional development provider, that you are the one, at least the first line of defense when your teachers need support around a particular area. I know we spent a lot of time looking at our data, deciding like what areas might be the best to support our teachers around, where they were doing really well, and how we can improve on instructional practices. And then those became the focus. Everybody knew what it was. Our walkthroughs were around those particular areas, and it wasn't a guessing game, and none of our walkthroughs were gotchas. Everybody was invested because it was not something that they didn't know was the expectation. And so just to bring that back around, that is strong instructional leadership is really important. The other piece is that you often get into how the teachers are feeling. Like, I think you said this, Erica, is not always the data and the exactly what you see in the classroom. It might be that mindset and supporting folks around the growth, because change and growth is not the easiest always, but being okay having difficult conversations as a school leader is important too. And sometimes even checking yourself, just checking that you don't approach situations with a chip on your shoulder, and that you also realize this is about student learning. I was at a training recently, and the presenter said students are not the fault, they're the focus. And so keeping them as the focus always is really important. And then that kind of dissipates how, some people may feel away. But when they know that you're about what's best for children, a lot of times people will listen, and, it's always about your approach.
Yeah. The other thing that's not we were talking about what's in the book, is delegating. That's another piece of this. It's not necessarily in the book, but it's something that has to be, I think, addressed, especially if you're new. Like my buildings, I would usually be the only principal. I would be solo, and you're gonna have to delegate if you're solo. But also, if you are in a building and you have a team, you can't be, taking I'm going to do all the jobs. So
Yeah.
this table that we're looking at right now are these correlates. We actually divided ourselves on our admin team under these headings so that one person isn't overwhelmed. We also we shared the who's doing what with the staff, because we had, I think the 5th grade had 500 students by itself. So that was like its own school.
Yeah.
So when things were going on, who do I go to? Because we have a larger team as opposed to at my school's always me. But who do I go to see about this problem, or who do I talk to about this? It was all laid out so that
Yeah.
that eliminates some of the I don't want to say questions, but sometimes people will call and they'll say, I need to talk to the principal and I need to talk to him now. And it's not real, that's not really my area. Like, you could see so and so about this. So this chart that we're going to show you on day 2, how we broke this up, is going to maybe help you if you have a team, but it'll also help you if you're solo. You're going to be doing the same things, but you're going to make a team, like a leadership team, out of your staff. Go ahead, Dr. Mel. I see you.
Yeah, I was just, before you guys go, I was going to have you scroll down just a little so they can kind of see what the book looks like, the booklet looks like, so
Okay.
they can have an idea.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can see that we're going to have the episodes linked in there, so you will be able to click on those and go to the episode.
I
All
guess we
right.
could talk a little bit about this, how it's used, for in case the persons who are listening today don't get to tomorrow.
Right, but also that way they're set up for success for listening for today. So
yeah. So the way that you use this booklet is we set them up by each correlate. When we were looking at the table of contents, they were all there. And then inside of each is a description, what it looks like in practice. Again, that book idea, and then what it actually looks like in the real school, in a real living school. So that's a little different from what you might be thinking when you're in grad school or before pre-service. Delegation plan, how to split it up. And then if you're solo like me, like I usually would be by myself, how you can adapt this to keep yourself on track. And then a quick win, like you could use this to, it's the summer. So you could use this to go through the quick wins. We have them listed all by themselves and in each correlate. So you can get your feet wet and get started during the summer, because this is the best time to start thinking about this if you're new. So
I'll say, especially if you kind of know where your school is. I just want to include that. Like sometimes when you start, you want to know kind of where everything sits. So if you're coming in, you're new, but you know what the building needs. This, like Erica said, jump right in and you can go. Make certain that you have a sense of what the needs are, because and then this will help you.
Yes, and if you don't, because I've been in a couple of schools where I didn't know anything, like I just got here, and I would, if you can, I would gather people from the staff. Like I would ask them, come talk to me. Like I need a guide on the side. I actually use that term. I need a guide on the side. Can you help me? What do you see as the areas that we need to start with what they're telling you, so that you have an idea of where to start. So you're not just coming in cold and say, well, I'm going to walk around and see. You are going to walk around and see, but you can still get an idea from your team.
One of the things that I did as a new principal is I sent out a survey to all of my staff before the school year ever started, so they could give me all of their information and I could get to know them as a person. But then I also knew, what are the great things that are happening at this school? What are the things that we should keep? What are the things that are not going so well? What should we get rid of? And then you get all of those perspectives. So then you have kind of that jumping off point.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
One
absolutely.
time we had a little money one time, and we did it in person, like a little retreat. So there's various ways of getting to people, because it is summer. Sometimes if you offer food and a little gift and something, people will be willing to come in, because sometimes people are like, it's summer, I'm busy right now.
And they need their breaks too.
Yes. Okay, so here's a sample of how we broke it up. So here's the correlate. We talked about strong instructional leadership. Here's a little definition. Is what it looks like in practice. And then we thought it would be helpful to say what you might be doing daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Again, if you're new, you kind of, it's in there, but having it written down, oh yeah, this could jog your memory so that you don't forget. Okay, I need to make sure I get in the classrooms often, or meet with my coach. So it's broken down by this correlate, by the time frames. And then here you can delegate. This is what the principal could be doing. The assistant principal, if you're lucky to have a coach with you, this is what the coach could be doing. And if you have department leads, And then here's the little solo section. It's basically the same thing, but just on a maybe smaller scale, or developing that team, like we said, like a leadership team. That's what I would always have to help me take up some of the tasks in the PLCs and in our meetings. I would have houses. We would group them by either grade level or by I had the one grade in my building, so we would do them by
Subject.
we would do them by a special ed teacher, actually, because the
Subject.
special ed teacher would service all of those students in the groups. So they would all get together, who's servicing would be in that group, and the teachers who had those students. And we would talk about these things in that form instead of, you don't have the assistant principal and such.
Right. And so you need to do what makes sense for your context. So
Right.
you
Yes,
need to think through
absolutely.
that and what that looks like. And also,
Yes.
as far as the walkthroughs, you need, as a new principal, as any principal, you need to put those on your calendar and you need to protect those.
Absolutely.
Those need to be one of the most important things that you do. And
Yes.
I know that when I was in the classroom, I would see my principal 2 or 3 times a year walk into my classroom, and then they would give me feedback on being in my classroom for 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, well, this is not real helpful because you've been in here one time
Right.
and I need to know how to correct what you just told me was wrong that you saw in one time of being in my classroom, when
Yes.
probably I do that. You just didn't see it this time. And so
Yes.
you need to protect that time and be in there often. And when I'm
Yes.
saying often, I mean weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be in every classroom as the
Every day.
principal. If you have an assistant principal or an instructional coach, that you can split that load up. You still need, as the principal, to be in classrooms all the time because you are the principal and they need to see you. But
Yes.
as far as observation and feedback in those coaching cycles, split that up.
Mm-hmm.
You can delegate, like you said, delegate, delay, or delete. Those are my 3 things.
Yes, yes.
Exactly
The
what we did. Made certain that those walkthroughs were top of mind every
Mhm.
week, and people knew. And once they understand that it is about support, it
Mhm.
wasn't like oh no, here comes so and so. They knew that they were going to get what when Erica has on here, when we have focused somewhere it says focused
Mhm.
walkthroughs.
Mhm.
And the reason why we have that is we would have areas that school wide we are looking at, but also individual teachers. So, like you said, if there's
Yes.
something that I need support around, I knew that I could get the individual support, but I also knew that as a group, as a whole, we're all working on, I know, engagement or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So
Right,
we made
exactly.
certain, yep,
Right.
that
And
those
you need to
walkthroughs,
meet your teachers where they are. So
yes,
your seasoned
it's like the
teachers are
student,
going to be in a much different place than your brand new teachers. So you're not
absolutely,
looking at the same kind of thing. And your coaching cycles are going to be different as well, because you don't need to coach your seasoned teachers who are rock stars every single week if you're going in and you're seeing what you're looking for on a consistent basis. Yes, there are still places where they can grow, but
right,
you don't have to continually coach them on those things. Your new
yeah.
teachers, they're
absolutely,
going to take much more time because they're new. They don't know what they don't know.
yes,
And
yes,
even after 13 years in the classroom, there were things that I didn't know until I became a principal or a dean of
yeah,
instruction.
Mm,
Yeah.
no,
yeah.
absolutely, that is so so true, yeah,
One
absolutely,
thing that I want to throw out is not in the booklet here, but instructional rounds. Like hadn't heard of instructional rounds
Hmm.
until recently. Like I did use it as a principal, but it wasn't something we talked about in school.
Hmm.
So the instructional round, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like when you're in the hospital, the doctors go and they look at the experienced doctor, and then they come back and have a discussion. So we used our experienced teachers or seasoned teachers. If we had that focus that Kim was talking about, and that
hmm
teacher was good at that, we
Hmm.
would use them as the experienced person to bring the rounds to. So they would come in and watch the teacher display or work through a lesson or whatever that skill was or whatever we were setting as a goal. They would look at them do that, and then we would have either them talk with me if the teacher wasn't available, but we would try to get the teacher back to the new teacher who's looking so that they can ask questions. We keep going back and forth. I found that to be more effective to me than me trying to go in the classroom and model it. I could model now, I could do it, but to see them with the students in somebody else's class and being able to be sitting back and look, I found that was really good for them.
And that is,
and it helps to get.
Go ahead, Kim.
No, I was just going to say that helps to, again, underscore that climate of high expectations, and that instruction is key here. So when it's a focus and people don't feel weird about going into my colleague's classroom and watching them, then you've created that climate where we are learning here, us adults, and our focus is that our students are learning.
It's a learning building. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's a learning institution for all of us. But you're also leveraging your human capital. So you are not wearing yourself out, burning yourself out. You're also creating opportunity for leadership within those people who are going to be leaders one day, or even if they don't want to leave the classroom, they are still leading from that classroom, and they are getting to use their gifts and their talents and their skills and knowledge to help someone else. And that just creates such a great culture when they don't feel like, when they feel like they can shine also.
Yes.
Have something to contribute. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that was the end of that.
Yeah, we did the quick one. So that structure follows each correlate, and I'll show you the quick wins. I'm spinning, but I'm gonna go down. I should have used the table of contents. You can click the table of contents and go to the page that you like. But this is the quick wins. Each section has the quick win in it, but we pulled them all out. So just in case you're like, okay, I'm busy, I want to just grab and go and start here. Here's a starting point, broken down by who's leading each that delegation is inside of here, and your quick win, and here are your correlates on the side, just to give you a quick way to start. And if you're, it's August and school's starting tomorrow, when you're listening to this, like, oh, I want to try it, you can have a quick peek.
Right. Awesome. Wonderful. All right, ladies, this has been great. I'm super excited to talk about everything else that we're going to talk about for tomorrow. So I'm not going to let you tell us how to get in contact with you yet, because you're coming right back and you're going to talk to us some more. So for my audience, join us back here tomorrow, and we will talk more about all of those quick wins and the 7 correlates and what you can do this summer to get prepared for the start of the school year. So we will see you back here tomorrow.